When discussing the topic of police brutality and surrounding the death of my baby brother, Dion Flood, one question gets frequently asked, and that question comes in a form of why didn't the family organize some type of protest behind the alleged police brutality that my baby brother suffered? And my response to that is that every time is that we don't have no leaders. There was no leaders that I believed in at the time, that we believed in at the time, to be able to spark that kind of flame. And I'm about to get into that, get into the failed organization behind the police brutality and death of Dion Flood. Now, starting with myself, before I get into anything else, starting with myself, um, at the time that Dion had got injured, I was fresh home from jail, fighting a case for 14 months. Um, I was out about a year when it happened to Dion, when Dion had went through what he went through. I wound up getting a misdemeanor charge that basically scarred my personal life and my criminal record. And I didn't think that I was fit to be able to be a leader in that situation at that time, because I thought that if I step out on the forefront, that my criminal history would be more profound in the media than the mission of getting justice for my baby brother at the time. I didn't want it to be a media circus about me, and I wanted to be more focused on us getting justice, true justice, someone going to jail for what happened to my brother. So, knowing that I wasn't the perfect candidate to be the face of fighting for justice for my brother, I did seek out amongst those who are closest to me some people who I thought would have been reputable and couldn't have been um, made a circus out of, made a clown out of in the media circus. People with backgrounds to with service to the country during wartime and all of that. However, these people weren't really interested in being the face of a movement for my brother and getting some organization going to at least give it our best shot to get some true justice for what happened to Dion. And what drove it all home for me about not going to those closest to me to gain some organization, uh, I can remember vividly someone close to me, someone really close to me at the time when we was talking about it, and I was doing my best to get people uh, excited and incited about you know a protest for our brother. This person said, "Well, they didn't want to get involved because they didn't want it to seem like they were doing it for money." Uh, I was instantly taken aback, and I fell back from asking anyone close to me to get this thing going because of that statement that was said. I knew that their mind was more on the end result of getting a settlement out of the situation with my brother rather than getting justice for him, real justice, someone going to jail. People were more worried about the money than anything else. And that one person saying that put me on edge to say, yo, you know what? All right, this is not going to be genuine. This is not a genuine situation. And it reminded me of how I felt about our leaders at that time, uh, concerning those who went out for police brutality. And one person in particular was Al Sharpton. Now, when discussing these conversations, having these discussions about police brutality over the last 10 years of my brother being gone, Al Sharpton name came up many times during that time in 2013, 2014, after Deion passed, and once my mother filed the lawsuit, his name was coming up a lot. And my thoughts on him at the time uh weren't very fond. I wasn't very fond of Al Sharpton and his leadership, and I always thought that he was self-serving, and then something happened that caused me to really uh, stand on the fact that this guy he's just out there with a blowhorn, just bigging himself up and not really doing his best work to get some real justice out of the situation. And yeah, and here's the thing that drove it home for me. Let me remind people that my brother Dion Flood's alleged police brutality situation happened in 2013, and he was sandwiched in between two other major police brutality situations that could be considered two of the catalyst, excuse me, that started what would become the Black Lives Matter movements. My brother was sandwiched in between what happened to Mike Brown in Ferguson, Missouri, and what happened to Eric Garner in 2014 in Staten Island, New York. Now, when Al Sharpton showed up to protest for Mike Brown, the young man who was gunned down by a Ferguson police officer after allegedly stealing something out of the store, may he rest in peace and condolences to his family. But after Al Sharpton showed up after the riots and everything, and I guess during the riots too, there was a lot of reports that started to come out about how he and his organization, National Action Network, were all about promoting themselves and making sure that they got their money on the back end. Sharpton rubbed a lot of people in Ferguson, Missouri. Well, yeah, I would say a lot of people. He rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. Uh, there was bishops and donors of organizations that thought of Al Sharpton as one man said that him and his National Action Network, they're shakedown guys. Like, yeah, they may have paid for Mike Brown's funeral. But after that, after the situation calmed down, they was asking the family for money for the services that they provided during the protest and stuff. According to reports from Project Veritas, one bishop thought that he incited people for the wrong reasons, that he didn't calm the people down, that he got people riled up, that it was more separation than actually getting together and having some real conflict resolved. Shoot, even one of his own lawyers that he worked with for a long time, uh, once again, according to Project Veritas, I watched a video on YouTube. Like Daryl Parks, a lawyer that he worked with, had admitted that there may be his words were quote unquote there may be a little truth to Al Sharpton just being about money. And to add on, even before Mike Brown, may he travel in peace, there was Trayvon Martin that Al Sharpton's National Action Network had got with. And then the aftermath of him being involved with young Trayvon's situation, may he travel in peace, condolence to his family. His family and the people who helped start the Trayvon Martin Foundation, they wanted absolutely nothing to do with him after everything transpired with the case. And as the case was going on, they didn't want anything to do with him. They wanted his logo and face to be removed from uh, the website. Once again, via Project Veritas, I got that from uh, also through a New York Post site, a New York Post article that I read. And so with that built up, by the time what happened to Dion, my trust in Al Sharpton wasn't there. Cause I had the notion that, yeah, nah, this guy is not going to really, really get us the justice that I think should be had. And yeah, at the time I was an active Freemason. I was in shouts out to all the Freemasons in Brooklyn, uh, Ezekiel chapter. But I was even connected to and associated with someone who worked right next to Al Sharpton, and even he asked me about, hey, we could get this started, we could start this movement. And although I felt good about the brother coming to me with that offer, it was Trayvon and Mike's, may they rest in peace, situations that furthered my belief in, well, nah, this is not the way to go, because this guy, there's already people talking about he's not really there for really some real activism, real change. He's there about the change in his pockets. So Dion happens after Mike Brown in 2013. My mother files the suit in, I think, going in 2014. She files the suit, and not too long after my mother filed the suit, uh, to bring some justice to our situation, the police brutality situation with Eric Garner, may he travel in peace, where he was choked out on camera by an officer in Staten Island. That happened. And then Al Sharpton got involved with that, paid for the funeral and everything. But the aftermath, no, even before the aftermath, there was certain things that was happening that made me lose faith in our judicial system, period. And that made me look at the judicial system with conspiratorial eyes. Because the lawyer, I forget his name. If you're listening to this, please comment the lawyer's name that first took on the Eric Garner's case. Uh he was a really prominent lawyer. And I was feeling good about this particular lawyer getting on this case because he was a great lawyer. That he was going to get results. This man was going to get results. And he was involved. He worked with the National Action Network. But as soon as the case starts heating up and he's getting more involved into the case, what happens? This lawyer gets accused of some type of sexual misconduct during that time, and he chooses to step down from the case. Now, that is what had me look at the whole judicial system with conspiratorial eyes. Because once I seen that this particular lawyer was on the case, I was thinking, oh man, these cops are going to go to jail. The family is going to get the justice that they rightfully needed. But then he gets caught out there, or there's something that happens where he's involved, like I said, in some sexual misconduct. He steps down. The case doesn't go nowhere. If I remember right, nobody went to jail. And yes, the family wound up getting like a $5 million settlement, $6 million settlement, something like that. However, but there was no justice, no real justice. And then Eric Garner's daughter talked to Project Veritas. They had her on camera. It's open to the public to see, where she spoke of one of Sharpton's chapter members of NAN, National Action Network, basically making Erica Garner, which is Eric Garner's daughter, may she rest in peace as well, travel in peace. She spoke on how they gave her vibes that the family owed them for paying for the funeral and just being there. They wanted their name on everything, and she wasn't with it, and they wasn't really working with her because she was like, well, this is about getting justice for my father and not paying somebody for supposedly helping us out to get this word out about justice for my father. So that's what those things, you know, those are the things that added up to failed organization within my family about Dion and protesting in his name, because there was no real leaders to look to, where I thought it would have been genuine. They will be genuine about getting justice and not charging, and not charging the family for the services of going out and organizing, meetings with officers and community leaders to go out and make something happen to where we could have got some justice for Dion and spark some real change between the relationships of the community, the people of the community, and the police. There was no one to turn to. There was no one to say, hey, we're going to do this and we're going to really go and get some justice. No money involved. No, we don't have no thoughts about any money. That'll be for y'all. Shit. Even I wasn't thinking about it either. I've, you know, even though I haven't gone out in the forefront and really, marched and everything. None of that really works. When has real protest about any of the issues of the urban community has really brought anything? It needs real action from real leaders to go and talk to these government officials, the people who are in charge of the police, to really implement some type of uh, um, real commitment to relations, good relationships between the officers of the communities and the people of the communities. The people want to be able to trust the officers of the community. And we won't be able to get there. We wasn't able to get there during Dion's situation because there was a lot going on. It was like during that time it was like you couldn't turn on the news without seeing some type of police brutality going on. And yeah, even though I really wanted to jump out there, once again, I wasn't I wasn't the one to be the forefront, the face of it. Even now to this day, I just take the risk of just putting the videos out and get keeping the world in remembrance of my brother, because my brother on his deathbed asked me and told me, nah, the people need to know. The people need to know what happened to me. He wanted the world to know. So, and he told me this. So I have a duty here to make sure that the world doesn't forget my brother. That my brother, although no officer has been charged in his murder or has been, fired from their job from it, and my family hasn't gotten any real justice out of this. My justice is making sure that his story is told. That's it. That's it. But it didn't get it won't get told properly because of the failed organization behind his police brutality situation. Even now, like there's nobody like really doing this what I'm doing as far as keeping my brother's name alive. I'm going to continue to do that in this type of fashion as well. So, to anyone listening to this, right? It's times that we need to get together and push for a better relationship between the people of our country and these urban areas, and the relationship between us and our government, us and our police. Now, I speak on July 12th, 2023, 10 years after my brother passed. And I have to say, within the last 10 years, man, there's been some really bad police brutality accidents, man. Murders on live on camera, you know, and not much has been done about a lot of the situations that has happened over the past 10 years. And I believe a lot of it has to deal with the fact that the truth that our neighborhoods aren't as united. as we should be. If our neighborhoods were more united in unison with the thought of, hey, we're going to protect our neighborhood no matter what. We're going to protect our people. We're going to be for our people. We're going to look out for our people. Then these situations won't come in like that. We need to focus on organizing our neighborhoods in a fashion to where we're not looked at as some crime ridden, drug infested neighborhood that the officers of the community look at as entering some type of a zoo or some type of jungle where they have to constantly be on alert about what's going on in there for their own lives, and they're coming in there scared and ready to shoot whatever's in their path. You know, if we get more organized in our communities, these problems won't even be happening. So, you know, that's my thoughts on the failed organization of what's going on behind my brother's police brutality situation. We don't have the leaders, and nobody, even those with reputable backgrounds, they're not looking to put their life on the line for anything, for a cause, for real change. They're not willing to do it. Everybody is kind of self-serving in that instance, I guess, in that ideal, like they just, yeah, they may believe in the same thing that I believe in, that no, people need justice. Dion needed justice. However, they didn't want to put themselves on the front line for it. Can't blame them. Not gonna blame them. However, I'm not even judging. Not blaming, not judging, just calling what I see. And that's what happened, man. Like there was no organization. There was no way to really get some organization behind my brother.